Hey guys, what's up? My name is Anthony, and welcome to another edition of Being a Sports Talk. So the other day, I uploaded my 10th episode of Being a Sports Podcast. Basically what that is a series where I collect a bunch of clips, I do some rankings, I do some fun sports topics, so I would follow that if I were you. But this is a follow-up to one of the segments. I did the top 7 worst sports cities of all time. No, just kidding. Just in 2019, and it was kind of like an accumulation of last year coming into this year, expectations and where they're kind of heading, and based on their performance, their expectations, how far or short did they fall of it. It's not necessarily the worst. Like, oh, we're gonna combine the records and then do some mathematical algorithms. No, this is kind of just oh wow, this team was expected, like let's say Philadelphia, the Phillies were expected to do so good, they fell. How good of a sports team are you, or city are you? So I'm going to mention some honorable mentions before we get into the video. Some cities that I was just like so close. I was going to include the Nationals, but I was just, not Nationals, Washington. The Nationals are a part of Washington. But, I was thinking of, like, they have the top 2 teams pretty much in their respective sports now. The Nationals, the Capitals, they're in the top 5 in their respective sports. And now, then you also have the Redskins and the Wizards who are in the bottom 5. So I was like, you know what, I can't really include Washington in this list. I was going to include Toronto and New Orleans, but they have one really great team and then one mediocre team that hasn't really proven themselves. I mean, the Pelicans, they're good on paper, but last year they ended up with a lottery pick. They ended up with I think they were 7th or 8th overall, but they ended up winning the lottery and drafting Zion Williamson number 1. But they're a good team on paper, but we'll see. The Saints, they fell a little bit short of expectations. Not sure about them. The Toronto Maple Leafs always fall short of expectations too. And I was so close to putting Dallas on this list. Then the Cowboys went a little bit of a losing streak. Kristaps Porzingis, the Dallas Stars aren't really starting their season off that well, and I couldn't quite put them on this list. Sorry, Dallas. But number 7, I have Los Angeles. Last year, Los Angeles was number 2 on my list. And why did they fall? Well, the Los Angeles Rams last year made it to the Super Bowl. They're riding high. They were like 8-1 or whatever when I uploaded this video last year. But now this year, they're 3-3. They're dealing with a bit of a Super Bowl hangover. Just got Jalen Ramsey. I trust their management. I've been trusting their management just a little more than everyone else, but I said in the beginning, I'm like, you're bringing in a bunch of personality. You're bringing in a bunch of guys. Like, you have to draft well, and they haven't really had number 1 draft picks, and I think it's going to start to catch up on them. Then you also have the Chargers, who I jumped off their bandwagon. It just seemed like last year they had a lot of luck. This year they ran out of it, and, Philip Rivers is getting old. They're going to have to move on soon. Then you have the Dodgers, who... I can't really laugh at them because of my Yankees, but, they fell short of expectations, especially after 106 wins. The Angels, I had them going into the conference the ALCS this year. Even though not everyone had that as an expectation, they still fell short. They had 72 wins, fired Brett Asmus after the first year, replacing Mike Scioscia. And also, some other teams there? The Kings, they were doing great a couple of years ago, and then they fell off a cliff. They fell off the map last year. I think they were a bottom 3 team last year. But then you also have the Lakers and Clippers, who, the expectations are really high this year with the Lakers and Clippers. But, last year, none of them really did that well. You had the Clippers who, won 2 games against Golden State. And yeah, they're number 7. They're still on my best cities list because you do have the Lakers and Clippers. Those are 2 really strong teams. Next, I would say Philadelphia. I mentioned the Phillies, how they fell short of expectations, but they still were above 500. Then you also have the 76ers, who are favored in the Western Conference, lost to the champions last year in a Game 7. I barely watch basketball, and I was so glad I got to see that play with Kawhi Leonard. That was freaking insane. Yeah, that was crazy. Philadelphia also has the Eagles, who are coming off a 9-17, made the playoffs. They dealt a lot of bad luck last year. We'll see how they do this week against the Cowboys. They can assert their first place in the, what do you call it? What is that thing called? In the division. And then Philadelphia Flyers, they fell a little bit short last year, but they're looking up. They're looking good this year so far, I think. At least that's what I've seen so far. They always have to get that goalie situation sorted out. Ever since their goalie a couple years ago left, they've been really fluky at goalie. And if in hockey, if you're fluky at goalie, it's hard to succeed. It really is. The best teams usually don't have fluky goalies, and you had last year with St. Louis Blues when they made up to the Stanley Cup. They had a really good goalie in Binnington. He caught fire. You can't have a bad goalie. So next is Milwaukee. They only have 2 teams, but Green Bay, even though they went 6-10 last year, they're first place in the division this year. And it's funny because the rest of the cities in this division made it onto my worst list. You had Detroit, Minnesota, and Chicago who were on my worst list. And Green Bay / Milwaukee, I'm including that. It's the same relative market. You had the Bucks, who are them, and the 76ers are favored to win it all. We'll see how they do. We'll definitely see how they do. Obviously, they don't have any hockey teams. I was about to say the Minnesota Wild. No, but they don't really have any other teams. But the ceiling, you have Aaron Rodgers. They're 4-1. They're in the first place in the division. We'll see. I had to include them because their height is too big. I mean, both teams are top 5 in their respected sports. And that's why I include them number 5. And plus a little bit of controversy. Number 4 is Oakland. Now, if you told me about 6 months ago when I knew I was making this list where Oakland would be, I definitely wouldn't think I would have them in my top 7. Forget about number 4. So the Raiders have a chance this weekend to assert their dominance in this division, especially with Patrick Mahomes down. We're not sure how long he's going to be out. So they have the chance for that. Then you also have the Golden State Warriors coming off of 2 NBA championships in a row, trying to make it a third, but they just had too many injuries. They're still going to be formidable this year with D'Angelo Russell. They did lose Sean Livingston, DeMarcus Cousins, and a couple other pieces. Did they lose Andre Iguodala? I think they did. And did they? I don't know. But then Oakland, Oakland Athletics, they made the playoffs. They lost to the Tampa Bay Rays. I was thinking about including the Tampa Bay Rays on this list. Tampa Bay on this list, not Tampa Bay Rays. But it's just, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was like, that I kind of quashed that real quick. But, going back to Oakland, their 3 teams are pretty good. You can include the San Jose Sharks in here too, since it's the same relative area. But I'm not really going to do that. The Golden State Warriors are moving to San Francisco this year, so this is a Bay Area thing. You can throw in the 49ers maybe too, even though it's 3 different cities. I don't know whether what to include where, but that whole Bay Area, they're popping right now. They have a lot of good teams, new stadium, everything's looking on the up and up. So I'll just say Oakland, and even though the Oakland Raiders are moving. So next year will probably be the San Francisco. That would be my list. But we'll see how good the 49ers do this year. Next is St. Louis. I mentioned the St. Louis Blues earlier with their goalie, Binnington. They won the Stanley Cup, and their baseball team, they got swept by the Nationals. But both of them are just really high, too high to not include on this list. And they don't have a football team. Apparently, they're looking to go back, get a football team back there. I'm not sure how successful that will be. I think they do have a XFL team coming there, if I'm not wrong. I think I'm mistaken. But anyway, so, I feel like St. Louis is a good sports town. You have the Cardinals, who every single year they beat expectations. It doesn't matter who they have. Yadi Molina, Matt Carpenter. They did deal with an injury this year in their bullpen, Hicks, that, it wasn't that bad in the long run. It's just that their offense couldn't get it done with Goldschmidt, who was really underperformed. But, you had DeYoung, who didn't really have timing hitting in the playoffs. It's just that they fell flat, and you can blame it on whatever. I think it was just a combination of everything. They couldn't hit. They left their bats in Atlanta. And Atlanta was on my worst list, because I'm like, screw that. They choke all the time, so why not include them on my worst list? But, so they're number 3. Number 2 is what was it? Oh, it's Boston. Boston was number 1 last year, but, the Red Sox didn't make the playoffs this year. The Celtics lost Kyrie Irving. We'll see how they do. But they severely underperformed the playoffs. Lost to the Bucks. I think they got swept. No, I don't think they got swept. I think they won the first game and then lost the next 4 or something. But you have Kemba Walker, you have Enes Kanter. I'm cautious about them. I'm gonna have my NBA prediction soon, but I'm cautious about the Boston Celtics now. Brad Stevens, can he do it? Is he just a coach that like the Utah Jazz, where you have a bunch of players and you try to, make them greater than the sum of their parts? Can he deal with stars? This team doesn't have a lot of stars, so maybe he's able to do it. But you also have the Patriots, who are losing a lot of players now. They're coming off of the Super Bowl, obviously. But, the offensive line is going to be weak, and Tom Brady can't move anymore. If you get a team in the playoffs with a decent pass rush, like maybe a Houston who has a decent pass rush, maybe a Bills, maybe a Colts who have Justin Houston back, they can give this team problems. And, we'll see how the Patriots do. But, this city is still number 2. The Bruins are coming off a Stanley Cup loss. They took St. Louis to a Game 7. The Boston Bruins are a good team. They have a young core that they started building up a couple years ago. Don't ask me to name anybody on that team because I don't really care about hockey that much. But all I know is Boston is a good team, and they figured out their whole goalie situation, and I'm happy for them. Actually, no, I'm not happy for them. Screw Boston. Boston's my least favorite team. Least favorite city. And then number 1, I have to give it to Houston. Right now, as I'm making this video, Houston is probably making it to the World Series. They are. And, the Yankees are, they just can't beat Houston. It's one of those things. Them and Boston, the 2 top teams, they just can't do it. I don't know what it is. They just can't drive runners in. All season long, they've been good with runners in scoring position, but apparently not against Houston. They also have the Rockets, who are coming off of a decent season. They lost to the Golden State Warriors in 6 games. Kind of disappointing after Kevin Durant went down that series. But, Houston is on the up and up. You have the Texans that are 4-2. They just coming off a win against the Chiefs. They're looking like one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the AFC right now. That's what they're looking like. We'll see how they do against Indianapolis Colts this weekend. But, you have that team. You have the Rockets, who... I'm not too optimistic about the Rockets. You obviously have the whole Daryl Morey situation. Him and Russell Wilson. It's going to be fun. It's going to be one of those things where I don't know what to compare it. Maybe even like the Browns, because it's like so much hype, but they haven't done anything yet. But Houston, they're a good team. They've won with James Harden. Not like championships, but they won a lot of games with them. The Browns haven't really won anything. But, it's a lot of hype. We'll see. They seem to be confident. And I'll have them. I think they'll be a 50-win team. I think they can make the playoffs as a 6-7 seed. I don't see them being horrible. But that's what I said about the Lakers last year. And, they ended up being pretty bad. LeBron James got injured. But whatever. That's my top 7 sports cities of 2019. If you want to check out my video from last year, it's not the best quality video. I did the top 10, so you guys get more picks. And, hope you guys enjoy this video. Let me obviously know your guys' opinions about everything we discussed in this video. If you would agree, disagree, love my opinions, hate my opinions. If you're a New York fan, sorry. We're not doing a good job. If you want to check out my worst sports cities, definitely check out my BNA Sports podcast, available on podcast apps everywhere. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys.